Hello, this is going to be a deep tissue back massage tutorial, and we're going to do a variety of different movements including deep tissue and moves just using the forearms, which are sometimes called hands-free massage. So I just wanted to say hi at the start because during the video my face probably won't be in view. So let's go. So the first moves that we do are through the towel, and this has a couple of benefits. One, it helps to warm your hands up, especially useful in winter. Two, it can be quite grounding, especially if you've been busy rushing around and then you come into the treatment room. It just gives you a moment to breathe and slow down before you start applying the oil and doing the main moves. It's also quite comforting for the client because they might have also been rushing around a lot, and it's just a kind of nice bridge between normal life and massage time. So we're not doing anything fancy, there's no deep pressure, it's just getting your breathing slower, just allowing them to breathe and relax. You can even encourage them to take some deep breaths. Okay, so through the towel is also an amazing way that we can work on the glutes. And for this we're going to use some forearm pressure. We're always using the soft fleshy part here underneath, and we're always keeping our hand loose. The reason is if you tense your hand like so, this becomes quite firm here, whereas if you let your hand loosen up, it softens this area. So this is your key massage tool for underneath of the forearm. So we're going to work on the top and the middle of the glutes. I'm going to do both sides, so even if my back is to the camera from some of this, you're still going to be able to see from both sides, so don't worry about that. So I'll just literally just lean. The other hand can either be on top of the arm as a kind of support, or if it feels more comfortable in this position, you can just place it on the shoulder, for example. So we hold this for a little while and we just allow the client to breathe into this. You can also ask the best question for checking pressure, which is, how's this pressure? Would you like more or less? And the reason we give them this option of saying more or less instead of just saying how's the pressure is because a lot of people are very polite and they'll just say fine, or yes, okay, but really they might be thinking, actually I want a tiny bit more or less, but I just don't want to say it. So if you say, would you like more or less, it gives them the opportunity. So I'm going to ask my client today, how's this pressure here? Would you like more or less?
Ever so slightly more, but not too much.
Great. So I've given them the chance to just request a tiny bit more. How's that?
That's great, thank you.
Okay. And then when you kind of feel that you're at the right level, you can just hold for a while. It's very minimal effort. So notice that even though I'm leaning over, my back's pretty straight and I'm hinging at the hips instead of hunching over. My legs in a sort of a low squat position, and that's where you get the height difference. It's all about legs, and this is why I work barefoot, because it's easier for me to grip onto the floor. Or if you use some sort of hiking sandals, they're okay. So you can kind of work around the side, as long as you're not pressing onto bone. And if you're not 100% sure, you can just detect with your fingers first. Bone will, you'll know when you hit the bone. So it's this is useful for the top and the middle of the glutes. You don't really want to do this on the lower glutes, it feels a bit too intimate. So we're moving around the other side, and we always keep contact with the client somehow, and that's just comforting. If I was to lift my hand off and just walk round, they might be thinking, oh, where have they gone? Is it finished? Well, they wouldn't think that at the start, but if it was later in the treatment, they might think, oh, is it finished? Or because they, you know, they can't see what's going on, so you want to maintain contact so that they know that it's still massage time. You know, you're not just wandering off to do something. Sometimes I kind of do a gentle stroke of the top of the shoulders, but it's not even really necessary. It's nice just to allow them to feel the pressure on the area you're working and allow them to breathe into it. And here, would you like more or less pressure?
That's exactly right, thank you.
Okay, great. So, yeah, just in this squat position and just leaning. You can achieve a lot of pressure from leaning your body weight in. So you need to be mindful of that because you don't want to cause pain. The level of pressure you're aiming for in deep tissue massage is always so that it feels comfortable and satisfying, but it doesn't hurt so much that it causes them to tense up. I like to explain this at the start of a treatment, well, in the consultation before the treatment, that the level of pressure they want feels like it's doing something. Occasionally it can be slightly challenging, but they're still able to breathe through it and relax into it. If they get to the level where they're sort of clenching their teeth and just trying to bear with it, that means it's too much pressure, and you're going to be bringing tension into the body instead of releasing tension. So it's really about balance, and you want to keep communicating with the client to check that the pressure's right, and just encourage them in the consultation to, as I say to the people, don't be polite, just say ouch or whatever they need to, so that they know that they're in control. It's really not no pain, no gain with this. It's hitting the right level. Okay, so to do deep tissue work on the back, I like to use this massage wax by Songbird, because massage oil can be very glidey. It can be too oily. Though if you do use oil, it might be useful at the start when you're doing slower, when you're doing gentle movements, and then for the deep tissue you can always just wipe some off, which sounds a bit weird, but it feels quite nice as well, and that can enable you to have that friction. So I kind of use a blend of these, to be honest. So I use the wax kind of like in the upper back, and I use the oil around the sides, and I'll show you why in a minute. So there's nothing technical about applying this, just there's no pressure really, it's literally the purpose is to spread the oil or wax. the oil. And I like to apply some near the sides. You'll see why in a minute. And I just kind of blend that in with the wax. So your initial moves are not deep tissue. They're just nice and slow and gentle. And I want you to notice, and I'll come on this side so you can see a bit more about posture. My front leg is bent, my back leg is straight. That is a lunge position. And we're just moving up the back, one hand on either side of the spine. We go over the edge. And make sure you move up. Avoid staying in the same spot and craning over. You want to constantly be shimmying, moving your feet and your whole body. And these slow, light moves at the beginning just are incredibly soothing, and they do the groundwork for the deep tissue. And what I mean by that is they completely soothe someone, and it spreads the oil, warms the area up, so that prepares it for the deeper moves and it relaxes the client. So a variation on this move, which was called effleurage, is ringing, and this is where we massage the sides. So when I say ringing, imagine a towel where you're moving your hands in different directions. So you place one hand on either side of the client, and you match the contours of the body, and just the hands are parallel. You slide over. Every time I move, my shoulders are low and my legs move with me, and that means I'm not going to be scrunching up in my shoulders. When you get to the upper back area, be careful that your hand isn't going right around the side, because that would feel too intimate. You can the hand can go right around the side in the sort of lower back and the top of the bottom of the mid back. I'll show you again. You just don't want to be tucking round the side where it would feel a bit odd. So you can continue this ringing movement over the top of the shoulders. Again, our hands are just matching the contours, and it's not deep pressure. We're going to do the deep moves in a minute, so this is preparatory. And the hands are gliding over the neck. So notice here that my hands aren't going right round the sides, they're just going the side of the back, they're not tucking under. But then when we get to sort of the lower back here,
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so now we're going to do some of the movements using our forearms, and again we're going to use the underbelly of the arm here, the fleshy part, and it's similar to this. It's the same area. We're going to move horizontally across. So I properly am in a squat position now, and that enables me to lower myself down. So from massaging right at the side to over the top, I lift myself up so that the part of my arm that's engaged it is going over, and that I'm not straining myself. I'll show you on the other side. So it's good practice to hold on to the top of the arm, because it gives you some more guidance and it kind of slows you down. I keep my hand loose, but I don't let it, as I move over, I don't let it hang on the client, because I think it can feel a little bit odd. it's best to just focus on the area you're focusing on here. So notice how my back's straight, my legs are in a squat position, and that I'm very low at the start because I'm working on a lower area and then I move up. So this is brilliant for the lower back. You can do it fairly far up. Obviously when you get to the shoulders that's going to be a problem because you're going to be working over bone. So you can do that, I guess, to around the bra line, that would work. Okay, so let's look at two options for using your forearms on the whole back. So one of them is just like so. Your arm is vertical beside the spine. Again, we have this squat position and we just gliding this over so that your arm's in a sort of dip beside the spine. The slower you work, the better, because it enables you to feel what you're doing. And if you rush, you can work on the wrong parts, i.e. the bone. So you can take that over. Don't worry about applying lots of pressure at the top when you move over, because it can be a bit tricky to work downwards. You always want to be working upwards. But as long as you incorporate that in somehow so that it feels like a complete move. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side so you can see. And as I transition over, I'm just keeping my hands in contact and doing something gentle. It just feels really nice and keeps things smooth. So it feels like you're shimmying a lot and maybe it isn't so graceful, but it really doesn't matter. The client doesn't care that you're like wiggling around. They just feel the amazing massage and they're probably half asleep anyway, so make sure you move your whole body around all the time. If I was to do this and stay in the same position, watch how uncomfortable it would make me in terms of my shoulders. So I'm bending right over, I'm arching, I'm like, it's a disaster basically. So compare that to here where I'm moving with my arm, shimmying my feet across, leaning right down in the proper squat position. So much better for the back. Okay, so let's look at version number 2. This is using the same part, but it's instead of like a forwards one, it's like a backwards one. We're starting in the same area, lower back, and it's all beside the spine, this whole line. So we place the arm down and keep the hand loose, keep the other arm on top so you've got that control. So we're kind of horizontal across, but when we come up, just before the shoulder, you're going to have to move your arm around, and that's so that we don't roll over the shoulder blade, because that would be uncomfortable. So I'm shimmying my feet still, moving all my body down with this move. Again, don't worry about the pressure at this point because we're going to work on the top of the shoulders in a minute. With a specific move. Loose hand. Would you like more or less pressure on the next one?
That's just right, thank you.
Great. Nice and slow and steady, shimmy round. same again on the other side. So I already feel that on the top of the shoulders there needs to be more work, and that's going to be the same with most people. So we'll do this a couple more times and then we're going to target the top of the shoulders. This is again is one that you could apply tons of pressure or do it quite lightly, and it all depends on how much you lean. All that I need to do to apply more pressure is just lean over more or use my legs to sort of add that force. Or you could just do it incredibly lightly because it's so useful for deep tissue. Okay, I'm going to focus on the upper back now, top of the shoulders. So for now I'm going to cover the rest. So there's different ways of doing this, and it's all about height. So I'll show you the different versions. I like to just brush the the back of the hair, just to avoid like the hair getting pulled here. So notice how this part of the back's so much lower down than this part because it's the top of the shoulders. So that means you're going to have to really lower yourself. So I'll show you the different versions, the different options for the height. You've got, if you stood up in a sort of squat position, or we've got a version sat on a stool or kneeling on a cushion. So I'm massaging the right side. I'm going to use my right arm. So this already feels a bit wrong because the client's just a lot more low down than I am. So I'm going to use a cushion. And we're still going to keep the lunge position, just kneeling on a cushion. So my knee is down, one knee is down and one knee is up. I'm just going to try and tilt the camera slightly down. There we go. Okay. So this is with the right arm. Just try both and see which feels best for you. Just make sure that you're not brushing over their head with your other arm. I'm going to work on the other side in a minute so that you can see more clearly what I'm doing. Exactly the same movement, using this part of the arm, keeping your hand loose and just working in this little valley here in between the spine and the shoulder blade. And the arm conveniently fits into that. Nice, slow. Okay, the same move on the other side. So as you see, I'm keeping contact with the client even though I'm wiggling around, and that makes them just feel that they're getting more for their money instead of if you keep taking your hands off. So they're still getting a bit of massage even though you adjusted yourself. So here you can see my position more, my knees down on the ground, the other one's bent, so I've got like a lunge position still. And just glide, we're just gliding on this bit. It's almost like this space is designed for your arm to go. How's the pressure? Do you want more or less?
That's great, thank you.
So after a while of asking this question throughout the treatment, you kind of get get to grips with the kind of pressure that they like. But you still want to check when you're working on a completely new area, especially with a new client. I'm going to show you with both arms. I do encourage you to do the one which feels most comfortable, but just be conscious if not, for example, if you're right-handed, to not use your right hand all the time. For the top of the shoulders, I find it easier to use the opposite hand. So this is their left. I'm using my left, but often I prefer to use my right. As long as you're not overusing one arm, just for your own sake. So this is great for just along the top. And then if we want to just give more attention to here, which is often really knotty on people, and that's in between spine and shoulder blade. Have a little feel with your fingers to know where you're working. And then we can work on this with the forearm, kind of the elbow. So, the squat position. I don't need to lean on a cushion here because it's a lot higher than down here. So as I move up, my legs move up, and that way I'm not bending my back. I'll show you on the other side. So all these moves could be done a lot more. If this was like a 90 minutes treatment, you could spend a lot longer, but this is just a demo for today. So I would have probably spent longer here on a normal treatment, and especially if I feel extra knotty bits, I would definitely, I'd come in and I'd work on that some more. If I felt that the area was slippy, I could just use the towel, just remove a little bit of the oil or the wax. And if you do want to use your knuckles, you can keep your arms straight and home in on a small area. Just make sure everything's straight and that your shoulders are low and that you're using your body to get that power instead of your arms. You can achieve this with the elbow. It's just sometimes nice to have a bit of variety for yourself. Okay, so same with all massages. Nice to finish just with an effleurage, just to smooth over everything, either with the hands or sort of forearms version, smooth over everything. Just make sure you're not massaging over the spine. And I like to help the client at the end by removing some of the massage mediums by some of the oil or wax, just so that when they get off the table they're not covered in oil, and that's especially important on the feet, so they're not slipping around on the floor. Right, there you have it, deep tissue back massage using the forearms. Hope you enjoyed it, let me know.